As you can tell, it's an interesting chapter. And it comes at the right time, basically. Because if you remember, after 52 and 53 and such, we were talking about the Messiah, the coming of the Messiah, and also what he was going to be suffering. And this is basically what they're saying. This is what he was doing for you, for Israel. And you can start putting it also on us. With that being said, does anybody wish to say anything before we get going into this chapter or not? Once again, silence. Sing, O barren, you who have not borne. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, you who have not labored with child. For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married woman, says the Lord. Hey, we're just going to stop there. What do you think he's talking about here?
In the side notes, my Bible says it represents Jerusalem.
Okay, it represents Jerusalem, but goes even further. It actually represents Israel. Israel as a nation. You know, and he's actually somewhat putting them down a little bit if there's, because you who have not borne, in other words, haven't borne of children or have been fruitful. And why is he saying that? Basically, what was Israel supposed to be?
A light.
A light unto the world, so that those who didn't know God would come to know God. But had Israel been doing that, or i.e. Jerusalem been doing that? No. For lack of better terms, they've been keeping God under wraps. You know, he's our God, not your God. In other words, they weren't going out into the world. And you know, it says, that's why it says, you have not born. In other words, you haven't birthed anything. You know, but, and then he goes, break forth and sing and cry aloud. You who have not had a child, you will have more than those of a married woman. In other words, you're going to start being fruitful, because it goes into the next verse. Enlarge the place of your tent, and let them stretch out the curtains of your dwellings. Do not spare, lengthen your cords and strengthen your staves. You shall expand to the right and to the left, and your descendants will inherit nations and make the desolate cities inhabited. In other words, he says, I am going to, for lack of better terms, force you. And you're going to become very fruitful. You're going to have so many descendants or things that come from you that basically the tent isn't going to hold them. So it's just start, and it's going to spill out. The walls will burst of the tent, and they're going to go all over. And if you look at it, and you look from a historical thing, what did happen? Especially with Christ's death and resurrection. Going worldwide. And even before this, even with the desolation and such, with the captivity of the Assyrians and also the Babylonians, the Jewish people are also spread worldwide, so that when Christ come, there was a network to hear and expand to the world. Like I said, this is talking pretty much to the nation of Israel, but you could definitely see where we're fit into, you know, because it goes to make the desolate cities inhabited. In other words, yes. Verse 4, do not fear, for you will not be ashamed, nor be disgraced, for you will not be put to shame. For you will forget the shame of your youth, and will not remember the reproach of your widowhood anymore. What's he saying here?
It seems like giving you a new start, or you know, you're a new person. You have,
Okay.
you're not being held back by your past,
What past?
the shame of your youth.
What past?
Okay.
You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold your past against you, because basically, what past? What is past is past, and you ain't going to change your past. No, we're going to do the present, and your future. I don't care what you were in the past. I want to know what you are now, what your future's going to be. You know. So don't be ashamed of what your past was. Live in the future. You know. Why? For your Maker is your husband. The Lord of hosts is his name, and your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel. He is the one they call the God of the whole earth. For the Lord has called you like a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit, like a youthful wife when you were refused, says your God. What's he saying here?
He calls us back to him.
The kinsman redeemer.
Yeah, no matter what you were or what you are, I don't care. I am your husband. I am yours. And what is a husband supposed to do?
Provide and protect.
And
Sanctify.
sanctify, make his bride holy.
Yeah.
Bring her up to him, to glorify her, to make her beauty, to make her a thing not to be surpassed, and to protect. Ephesians 5 is the best way to do it. You know, to give his all for his bride. And that's basically the saying here. You know, even though you were forsaken and grieved in spirit like a youthful wife refused, says your God. I'm there. Even though you've been abandoned by others, I am there. And he says in verse 7, for a mere moment I have forsaken you, but with great mercies I will gather you. And that, for a mere moment there, you got to be a little bit careful, because God never forgets us. But once in a while, he lets things happen just so that you can appreciate him even more. And that's basically what it's saying here. But in the last part, that's the best one. But with great mercies I will gather you. With great love I will gather you. With great compassion I will gather you. You know. And it goes into, now it goes back into a little bit, you know, for a moment I forsake you. With a little wrath I hid my face from you for a moment. Okay, I want to just stop there. Why would he hide his face for just a moment?
So you can feel what it's like.
Go on.
It's like what eternity is going to be like if you don't accept.
To feel what it is to be not in God's grace, not God's mercy. Just to see just a little touch or a hint of life without God in the world. In other words, it's like the proverbial mule that once in a while you gotta hit him between the eyes with a club to get his attention. For those who grew up in a farm, you'd understand a little bit what I'm saying. Sometimes you gotta get people's attention. Sometimes you gotta get animals' attention. And I'm not saying being brutal or anything like that, but you just kind of get to focus on you. And that's kind of what is saying here, you know. I was mad at you, and I hid my face a little bit. But, I love that but with everlasting kindness I will have mercy on you, says the Lord your Redeemer. In other words, he's going to show compassion, he's going to have mercy and such. And here's the best part, your Redeemer. Why is it important? What does redeem mean? To buy back, I own you, you are mine, you are not going any place. He's claiming ownership here of you. He's claiming ownership of you as his bride. Verse 9, for this is like the waters of Noah to me. For I have sworn the waters of Noah no longer cover the earth. So I have sworn that I will not be angry with you nor rebuke you. What is this saying?
God's love and mercy is there for you to accept it whenever. It's not like you can, if you come to him, he's gonna be there for you. And he's not gonna be there in anger, you know, if you come in humility and confessing that you've done wrong, he's not gonna be there as an angry God. He's gonna be there, you know, not trying to like put you down and judge, you know, like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. He's more of a
Okay,
loving God, you know.
let's go a little bit more too. What is the one thing about the flood that God promised never to do again? Destroy the earth. He says, I will never destroy the earth with the flood, you know. That's why it's going with the Noah's waters. So I have also sworn that I will not remove myself from you again. That's where that's going. That's the parallel that's there. I'm not going to destroy the earth with water again, and I'm not going to forsake you again, or with my draw myself from you again. So he's making this is basically a new covenant. I don't want to say a new covenant, but he's reinforcing the covenant that you are still mine and such, you know. And I will not be angry nor rebuke you. Think about it. Ever since the Babylonian captivity and their return from the captivity, they have never gone into captivity again. Okay? Verse 10, for the mountains shall depart and the hills shall be removed, but my kindness shall not depart from you, nor shall my covenant of peace be removed, says the Lord who has mercy on you. What's he saying here?
God's love and kindness will not be shaken or pass away.
Well, what happens to hills? What happens to mountains?
We're down.
They wear down, wear out, they come and they go, they disappear. Should I say an earthquake comes and where there was no mountain before, there's now a mountain, or where there was, it's gone. You know, things are constantly changing and such, and you know, there's nothing solid even within the earth itself. But he's saying here, my kindness will never depart from you again, nor shall my covenant, key word there, be removed from you. I'll always be with you. And once again it says, the Lord will have mercy on you. So why is he doing this? Out of grace. Has mercy. Verse 11. O you afflicted one, tossed the tempest and not comforted. Behold, I will lay your stones with colorful gems and lay your foundations with sapphires. I will make your pinnacles of rubies, your gates of crystals, and all your walls of precious stone. All your children shall be taught by the Lord, and great shall be the peace of your children. What's kind of going on here?
Like if you're not a follower of Christ, you kind of, like the first part talks about tossed with the tempest. You're kind of like being battered around by the ways of the world, and he's talking about making a security, a foundation, a safe place for you.
Okay. Well, let's go a little bit further up. Let's go all the way to the end of the Bible. What's the description of the New Jerusalem? Aren't all those precious stones mentioned? Aren't your gates of red crystals and all your walls of precious stones? All the different gates, the amethyst and all this such? And think of that, all your children should be taught by the Lord. What's one of the things that it's going to be at the end? We're going to be with the Lord. He's going to dwell with us. Not just in us, but with us. He's going to be there. And great shall be the peace of your children. what is that peace? Well, it's the peace that we don't understand yet, but we have a glimpse of when we come to the Lord and there's that inner peace that comes in. He's saying this is exactly what's going to happen with you guys, and this is what's going to happen. Okay? Verse 14, in righteousness you shall be established. You shall be far from oppression, you shall not fear, and from terror, for it shall not come near you. What's he saying here? First of all, what's righteousness?
Being right with God.
Being right with the Lord. Okay, you're going to be established, you're going to be right with the Lord. So if you're right with the Lord, you're not going to be oppressed because you're in the Lord. Okay? You shall not fear. Why? Because you're groomed. I.e., God is going to take care of you. He's going to protect you. He's going to protect his bride. Because remember, he says you are basically my bride before. You know? And I'm going to protect you from the terror that will not come near you. But he's saying, indeed, they shall surely assemble, but not because of me. Whoever assembles against you shall fall for your sake. Behold, I have created the blacksmith who blows the coals in the fire, who brings forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the spoiler to destroy. What's he saying here?
Sounds like he's saying he made Satan
That's what I was
to
oh.
create a ruckus.
Really?
It is I who have created the destroyer to work havoc.
How about if you kind of took it a little bit differently? Indeed, they shall surely stumble against you, but not because of me. In other words, a worldly thing. Whoever sends you shall fall for your sake. In other words, I'm going to conquer him. Behold, I have created the blacksmith who blows coals in the fire. How about if I said the blacksmith was Christ? Okay? In other words, I've created the Redeemer because, once again, who is capitalized? So we're talking about a religious person, you know, who brings forth, once again, an instrument for his work. And I have created him spoiler to destroy. In other words, what is Jesus' purpose on earth? To redeem us, to buy us back, but also to thwart all the work and such that have been done by the world and by Satan, right? And who was that instrument? And it's, once again, the instrument was Christ. I have conquered, you know? Because it goes on to say, this is verse 17, no weapons formed against you shall prosper. In other words, no matter what Satan does or whatever the world does, it's not going to prosper. And every time which rises you in judgment, you shall condemn. In other words, we're going to overcome. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is from me, says the Lord. In other words, once again, that is your inheritance that you are getting when you become the bride, basically, of God, and your righteousness is from me. I'm going to take care of you. I have the means to destroy you if anybody comes against you. I have created the blacksmith, i.e., I have given you Christ. Can you see that in there? So, what do you say? Interesting so far.